When it comes to success, the choice is simple. You can either stand up and be counted, or lie down and be counted out.
Maggie Lena Walker, a staple in the Jackson Ward, Richmond, Virginia community, as well as all over the world. In this mini documentary, we will take a look into Walker's life and many of her outstanding accomplishments. Childhood and family life. Maggie Lena Walker was born on July 15, 1864 in Richmond, Virginia. After the Civil War, Walker's mother, Elizabeth Draper, began a small laundry business. Walker assisted her mother by returning clean laundry to white customers, a position that allowed her to observe the economic and social differences between the races. In the 1870s, Walker attended newly established public schools for African Americans in Richmond, Virginia. Due to Walker's broad educational experience in her youth, this would help lead her to reach many heights moving forward in her career. After years of getting her education, she married a man named Armstead Walker Jr., September 14, 1886. They went on to have 3 sons, Russell Walker, who was born in 1890, Armstead Mitchell Walker, who was born in 1893, however unfortunately passed away 7 months later, and their youngest son, Melvin Walker, who was born in 1897. Also, they had an adopted daughter by the name of Margaret Polly Payne, and years later had a daughter-in-law named Harriet Hattie Walker, who was married to Maggie's oldest son, Russell Walker. Russell and Harriet went on to have a daughter named Maggie Laura Walker, who is the oldest grandchild of Maggie Walker. Also, Maggie Walker's youngest son, Melvin, married a woman by the name of Ethel Robinson, and they went on to have 3 kids named Armstead Walker, Elizabeth Walker, and Mamie Walker. Here's a rare photo of Maggie Walker, her 2 sons, her mother Elizabeth, and Maggie's 2 grandchildren, Maggie Laura Walker to the left and Armstead Walker to the right. Also, here's another photo of all 4 of Maggie Walker's grandchildren. To the far left is Maggie Laura Walker, beside her is Elizabeth and Armstead Walker, and to the far right is Mamie Walker. In 1904, the family purchased this house, which is located in Jackson Ward. They opened their house for many family members and friends to stay in as well. Celebrity friends such as Joe Louis and Bojangles stayed over a couple of times. Business and activism.
Let us put our monies together. Let us have a bank that will take the nickels and turn them into dollars.
In 1881, Walker joined the Independent Order of St. Luke, which is an organization dedicated to supporting the social and financial advancement of the Black community. Fast forward years later, the Independent Order of St. Luke was on the verge of bankruptcy. That was until they elected Maggie Walker as the Grand Secretary, a position she held until her death in 1934. With this new position, it was like a breath of fresh air for the organization because she brought in new ideas and diversity. Under her leadership, the organization gained 100,000 members in 24 states and collected $3.5 million. With the success of her leadership in the organization, on August 20th, 1901, Walker gave her now famous speech in front of the Independent Order of St. Luke's Council, where she talked about her vision to take the organization to greater heights by creating a bank chartered and operated by St. Luke members, a newspaper to give out the good news of the order, and a department store run by Black employees geared to Black consumers with goods they wanted at a more affordable price than the white retailers. This helped the Black community become more independent, mobilized, and self-sustaining for many years to come. This led Maggie Walker to become both the first African American woman to charter a bank and the first African American woman to serve as a bank president. The operation that Maggie Walker proposed in 1901 began a year later in 1902 with the St. Luke Penny Savings Bank, which opened for business in November 1903. Then, in 1905, the St. Luke Emporium began operation. As far as Walker's bank, it was a success. It ensured longevity and stability of Richmond's black middle class, and it increased black home ownership in the city. During the Great Depression, when other banks failed, Walker kept the St. Luke Penny Savings Bank alive by merging it with two other banks to create the Consolidated Bank and Trust Company in 1930. Even at the beginning of the 21st century, the bank continued to exist and was the oldest bank in the United States that has been continuously run by African Americans. Later years.
No person is your friend who demands your silence and denies your growth.
Towards the end of Maggie Walker's life, she suffered from diabetes, which resulted in a leg wound that never healed. This had her spending the last decade of her life in a wheelchair. Although she was dealing with diabetes, she never let that stop her. Walker's reputation as a powerful speaker and entrepreneur continued to grow. She engaged in major civic issues and became an activist against discrimination and segregation. She was co-founder of the Richmond chapter and the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. She was one of the organizers of the 1904 boycott that protested the Virginia Passenger and Power Company's policy of segregated seating on the Richmond streetcars. The boycott was so successful that the company went out of business within a year. Due to Walker's commitment to education and activism throughout the years, Virginia Union University awarded her an honorary Master's of Science degree in 1925. Also, in 1925, Maggie Walker was nominated for the prestigious National Association of Advancement of Colored People Medal. On December 15, 1934, Maggie Lena Walker passed away. Her funeral was held at Richmond's First African Baptist Church. Her influence still stands strong today, with a local governor's school and high school named after her, Walker's home being considered a landmark and kept up for tourist attraction, her influence on supporting black businesses, her influence on more black Americans taking part in politics, economic affairs, activism, and the education system. Maggie Lena Walker paved the way for many of us black Americans to get more involved in these fields of business and inspiration.